Hello and welcome to another episode of The Thing I Love Most show. And of course, the thing that we do love most is Tottenham and being Eared. Although this weekend, it's not been as easy to do so as others. And we've got loads to talk about this week. We are covering the match, obviously. We're talking about our player of the week. And we're talking about the return of Heung-min Son after his victory in the Asian Games. And we're discussing all things Spurs. Firstly, I want to introduce our guest. We have Mike with us today. Welcome, Mike.
Nice to see you again, Noel.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
So if anyone hasn't listened to or seen the show before, our podcast is based around a Facebook group called Spurs Fans DSI. And DSI is don'tstayin.com. So this used to be a website back in the day for people that should know better. And now that's transferred to our Facebook group. So it was basically a clubbing website, and it had its own Spurs fans group on the website, and now that has transferred to Facebook. And Mike, you were the one of the founder members of the Facebook group back in the day. So firstly, how did you get involved in don'tstayin.com?
Strangely enough, it was a complete accident how I came to this branch of the music industry and clubbing and stuff. I was a minicab driver. And most of my guys were going to Fabric or the Cross or stuff like that. And so I found myself there on many occasions. But the guys that were doing the taxi service at the time didn't know where any of the destinations were. And I used to stand there and tell them where they were going. And so they ended up offering me a job for more money. And I thought, yeah, it's for me.
Happy days.
Happy days, and the rest is history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then in terms of your sort of Spurs fans history as well, so when did you become a Spurs fan? When was your first game?
I know it's not the right thing to say, but the very first game that I went to when I was about three and a half.
What we're going to hear now?
Was standing in the shed at Chelsea because my brother.
Not as bad as you could have been, but okay. Still not great.
No, still not great. And so that was the first against Leicester, if I remember rightly. I must have a good memory, but yeah. And so then after that, then I went with my dad to Spurs. First time I stood on the shelf, and then. Do
you remember the game?
I think that was against Newcastle. It was a home game, and because it's so small, I couldn't really see. And what they used to do then was pass the kids down the top. They just pass them down to the front.
Really?
Yeah, straight up.
That sounds incredibly safe.
And back in the days when it wasn't. Yeah. Anyway, and they put us over the edge, and we'd sit on the red grass, and there was a load of kids just sitting there like this, and we're looking at all these pros like playing. We couldn't believe it, and this ball just rolled to me, and I picked it up. And what did I do with that? Jimmy Greaves came over and said, "Thanks, son," like that, and I went like that.
Amazing.
And I started crying like that.
That is a good.
Because of the moment, so I thought that's it.
That is fantastic.
And that's the moment that I started supporting Spurs. And
What a moment to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on, taking it forward.
Yeah.
About a good few years.
Couple of years.
Moving on to Sunday, yesterday.
Yeah.
Obviously a disappointing result. There's lots of things to talk about the performance.
Yeah.
And so just start on sort of like your general overview of the game and the sort of the performance.
Even though I was happy about the second half performance against Man U, I couldn't get out of my head how bad the first half was, thinking that we've dodged a couple of bullets with Lukaku's miss and stuff like that, thinking, well, I think we'll probably win now if we get to half-time 0-0, which it was. And so the second half I was impressed with, but I couldn't get rid of that image of the first half. So I figure there's still something not quite right with us, whatever it is, even though we got away with it this time. And I seem to remember that Watford gave us a really hard time last year because they their advantage was with their size, and they
Yeah.
tried to get in our face. And so you have to turn up against
Definitely.
them physically,
Definitely.
and let your ability take you past the team as we normally do. But I don't think we were anywhere near that place.
Yeah.
I don't think we were
I think it
anywhere
was,
near.
to be honest, I actually agree with a lot of what Poch said after the game.
Yeah.
And I think what I do really like about Poch is his honesty and is his frankness in interviews. And normally, when we do have a defeat, he will pretty much point to where he thinks it's gone wrong, and he's not gonna, he doesn't blame players, which
Yeah.
I appreciate.
Yeah.
But he does say, as he said, the issues were with conceding set pieces and being complacent in the first half, and I agree. And there's been loads of talk on the group this week about sort of our performances and
Yeah.
whether we were in control in the first half or whether we weren't. And I think we were in control, but I think we were almost, as he said, almost too in control in that we didn't do anything with the ball. It was very easy. There was no cutting edge. There was no real chances. I think we had 2 shots on target the whole game.
Yeah.
And that's really not like us. In the past 2 or 3 seasons, we have been one of the highest shots on target teams. That's what we do. We test teams. We have the players to get shots on target, and for some reason that's not happening. And so there were obviously reasons behind that which we can go into. But I think so. Firstly, with the formation. So you mentioned the Man U victory. Obviously, he went for a back 4 then. Which meant he dropped Sanchez and he played Dembele and Dyer in a 4-2-3-1 or 4-2-2-2 as it was even. So were you surprised when he went for wing backs, and were you surprised that he dropped Dyer for Sanchez?
That for me was the number one reason for me is he changed the defence and
also Rose for Davies, actually,
Yeah.
I should mention, because
Yeah.
I think that is also quite I think that had an impact.
I'm not a great lover of Davies. I think he's done well since Rose was injured, and he had that extended thing. He started to become confident, and he started doing some good things, scored a couple of goals and stuff like that. But that seemed to have tailed off.
Is he a wing back though?
No.
He's not a wing back for me. And that's what really surprised me, in the fact that
No.
you go from a back 4 with Rose playing. I mean, obviously he made a mistake with the back pass for the Lukaku chance, but I thought he had a quite solid second half.
Yeah.
But if you're going to play wing backs, surely you have to play the more attacking player with more pace, who has more threat in the attacking third, which he does. It was a confusing selection in that respect. I can see why, because obviously the reason he went for 3 centre backs, I believe, is because they had Troy Deeney and Andre Gay. Andre Gray.
That's right.
They had 2 strong centre forwards, and so if you do just play a back 4, then you might struggle, because obviously someone's going to be out of position, and so you might get overrun. So I can see why he went for wing backs, but I don't really know why he chose Davies over Rose, because of the fact that he's just not as attacking. And that was one of my bugbears for the whole game, was that they weren't attacking enough. And the same for Trippier. He didn't get down the wing enough. If you play with wing backs, and the best time that we had with wing backs was when we had Rose and Walker.
Yeah.
There was a period of time 2 years ago where we played with Rose and Walker, and they were bombs down that wing. They were incredible. All of our attacks, pretty much 90% of our attacks, came through our wing backs. That was an incredible part of our play. And obviously, I'm not saying that Trippier is the same as Walker in terms of he's a very different player. He's probably a better crosser, a better set piece taker, but he doesn't have the pace and he doesn't have that one-on-one ability. And the same with Rose and Davies. But if you're going to play wing backs, if you're going to put that emphasis on your wide players, then you have to get them to push forward. And they just didn't do that enough. And even when Trippier got the ball, he still wasn't moving forward enough. They weren't playing high enough.
So it strikes me as if Poch was worried about the Deeney effect, and about the physical, and they released things. Oh, I've lost 1.5 stone, and I've been doing extra training and all this type of stuff. I think he believed it.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was that, even though he scored the goal. I mean, I could have scored the goal if I was there. You just had to stand there and let it hit your head, and it was in.
Okay.
He didn't have to challenge or anything. And so I think he picked the wrong defence because he was worried about Deeney and what they were saying.
So what would you have gone
like
for?
that.
What would have been your team?
I would have kept it the same as.
So you would have gone back 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would have kept it as back 4, because there's only, instead of having 3 big guys that are revolving around each other, that means they're susceptible. Whatever happens, they're susceptible to pace. And so any attack from wing backs from either side, that's going to be an issue. So if you only need one of them and you've got another guy that's more mobile and a bit more pace and stuff, who can cover these 2 guys that are not as quick, it just makes sense to me. So I was worried before the game started.
I think
with
also,
that.
I do agree with that, and I think also when you do play with the back 3, you don't have that protection ahead of them, and I think that was evident in the fact that obviously we lost Dyer, but we basically lost Dyer to Kane Sanchez. That was the switch. But what Dyer does give you is protection in front of that defence.
Absolutely.
And if you do play wing backs, I just don't think Dembele is strong enough to hold that role at the moment. And there was a post by Brian, who has been on the show before, earlier on this week, who was basically questioning why Dembele is so lauded amongst the Spurs fans. And it was an interesting post, and it got a lot of negativity, but a lot of people disagreed with it. And I think it is a very interesting point, because he is obviously a fantastically gifted player. I mean, when you have these interviews with like the Spurs players about who is like the most technically gifted player, who's the best player at the club, they all say Dembele. I don't think Brian was questioning that, and I would never question that. But I think there has definitely been, and there was an article written by Alistair Gold this week as well that someone posted, in which basically explained the sort of, it's not the demise, but it's a change in a person's performance, and he's getting to that stage now where he is getting a little bit older, and so, you know, mistakes are going to come into his game. He's not going to have the same pace as he would do, and he's never been a player for goals or assists. So statistically, he's always going to look poor, but that's never really been about his game. He's been about running games. He's been about owning them at that midfield. He's been about strength and really driving from defence to attack, which has been amazing for. And then I could roll off, 100 games where he has been pivotal for us. But I think if we're going to play him in that role, I think he's struggling. And when Winks came on, we looked a little bit fresher, and we looked a little bit more direct, and he's a little bit more forward thinking, I think, Winks, and I think it's going to be a massive season for Winks, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him play it. But I just think Dembele is going to still play a part. Oh, hello, it's Musa on the phone. He's complaining about the fact that we were saying he might be his last season. So what are your thoughts on Dembele? The whole Dembele,
I have to say, I've always been a fan. I know he's had injury problems, and I know he's getting towards the end of his career, and they're going to get niggles and stuff like that. But when he's on his game, he's unplayable. Like Real Madrid last year, and you just look at this guy thinking, look, you're getting, you shouldn't be doing this, covering this. Yeah. But his pace over the ground and how he puts the ball past someone, he commits people, and that's what we don't do. We try, our basis is that we try and pass it round everyone until we get to a right place, then we pass it across, then pass it there, then score. Whereas he commits, something that we're missing is someone that can break a line and then give the ball away. So it's 2-on-1 for us instead of 2-on-1 against us.
Yeah, I agree. But do you not agree that there are now, before maybe even last season, you would have thought he was like, pretty solid for us in terms of he would never really give the ball away. There were rarely any mistakes in his games, but they are creeping in.
I think
they were creeping in. If you look at the semi-final last year against Man United, both goals you could have said were down to Dembele, and I think now the actually the Lukaku chance, not obviously the Rose back pass, but the other Lukaku chance that Lloris saved from, was from him just trying to sort of like play out of defence, and I love him. I think he's been great for us, but I also think that he's not as reliable as he used to be, and I don't think. I think Brian might have been maybe over harsh in his assessment. I don't think overrated was the correct term, but I think that players get old. Players come to the end of their careers, and players lose as much effectiveness as they used to have. So I don't think it's a case of the players, the fans are still saying, "Oh my God, he's still a god." They're just saying, he's in their minds, he's still as effective, maybe, and then maybe that's the issue.
I just think that it's taking him a little bit longer this year to get up to speed. I haven't made the judgment now. That's it. His legs are gone.
Sure.
He's not making up the pace or the yards or anything like that.
Well, I mean,
I haven't seen that, but him giving away. He's only doing what Ali is doing, who's allowed to do this stuff and these little ones and try these nutmegs, and he gives it away untold times. He doesn't get the same criticism, but it's a different thing when you're playing in a holding midfield. You really can't lose the ball on the halfway line, because these teams now, it doesn't matter what position you are, they're going to hit that back line, and there's going to be men over and stuff like that. So it's a different type of pressure. I just don't think he's up to speed yet. So I'm holding off on saying that's it, he's done, he's had his time.
I mean, 100%. And I said in the group this week, he is going to play a vital part this season, 100%. But I just don't think he's obviously had his injury issues, but I don't think he's going to start every game. But I think that's a great opportunity for Winks. I really do. I think Winks is a class act.
I think
I think he could do really, really well.
You're absolutely right.
So that's a really good point you made, actually, about obviously Dembele not being up to form right now. I mean, you could say that. I mean, so if you look at the squad now, how many are up to form? How many are up to their sort of level that we require of them? You could say Mora, obviously. 2 man of the match performances, 3 goals. He's been class.
Lloris seems to be.
Lloris was good before he got injured, and I think Vertonghen is so consistent. He's played well. I think Toby maybe. But apart from that,
pretty much it. I think.
And is that good enough? I mean, why are we questioning sort of Dembele's performance when we could be questioning a lot of the others? And I think Eriksen seems to start quite slowly normally. I remember last season people were calling for his head, and maybe even the season before when he wasn't really. I think the first 10 games, I think he maybe even contributed maybe 1 goal or 1 assist, and it was like people saying, get Lamela in or get someone else, and it's too quickly to judge in that respect. But Eriksen for me is such a vital cog in this team. When he plays well, when he buzzes, and everyone else plays well, I find. I think Kane reacts really well off him. I think Ali's the same. And when he's really on form, we can really change. And for me, he's not hit the ground running. And I don't know if it's a World Cup hangover. I doubt it. I don't know what the answer is. Who knows? I mean, it's still very early on in the season, so it's far too easy to say anything crazy. But I think it's an interesting point, the fact that people are obviously talking about Kane especially. I mean, and I agree. We rely on Kane. Obviously, he's our main man, and normally he is a lot more involved in games, and he's testing keepers more. But we are as a team. It's not just him. He will normally have about 3 or 4 shots on target per game, and we will normally have about 11 or 12. Those are our stats. That's what we do. and then we have 2 shots on target the whole game.
But
That's just crazy.
I still think that it's not the Kane of maybe a year ago, something like that.
Something's wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, something's
wrong.
different there, because he was literally unplayable.
So is it his ankle? You still think he's feeling his ankle?
I just think the 2 injuries on that ankle, you can't do it. I know for history from playing football, that ankle, you lose your mobility on it, and you start to second guess whether it's going to be all right or whether it's going to go, and so you play inside your comfort zone. And so it looks to me like he's playing half a yard short.
I think it's also what I've noticed is that also I think you might be right, and that's worrying that you say that. Is that, I mean, it was even in the World Cup as well, you know, he scored from set pieces, obviously scored penalties, and he scored headers, and he scored a close range goal. The goals that he scored this season, obviously he cut inside against Fulham. Yeah. It was a nice little pass into the corner, and he scored a very, very good header against Man United.
Well, it was a game changer.
Yeah, fantastic. Headers are not going to be the problem.
No.
Do you know what I mean? When it comes to fitness, when it comes to ankles, headers are not going to be the problem, and almost penalties are not going to be the problem. There's something else there, and I completely agree, is that, you know, when was the last long range shot he had? When was the last time he actually, because there was a chance in the Watford game where someone laid him through, and he had so much space on the left hand side, and Moura was in the middle. Granted, he would look like he was almost free, but the old Kane would have taken it on, and he would have probably just pinged it on his left foot, because he's very, very comfortable in his left foot. He had so much space, and he actually just he had attempted a cross with his left foot, and it just hit the defender. And it was like, that was not the Kane that I'm used to at all. He either would have cut inside on his right foot and banged it in, but he would have definitely, like 6 months ago, he would have shot on goal 100%. Yeah. And there's a reason for it. And it's not fatigue. Because, you know, he can't be tired. We're talking about a Premiership footballer here who's like, you know, at the height of his game, and he's fit, and so there's something there.
There's definitely something going on, and so that's what I think about Harry, because I know his takeoff, the speed that he can take off in the first 2 or 3 steps are quite deceiving for a lot of the defenders. That's why he gets fouled so many times when he runs the channels. But he doesn't even run the channels now. And so I think because he's not as visible, whereas he used to be visible all the time, he used to be in it all the time. And again, with the long shooting, like coming in off either foot and just shooting for fun. Yeah. Because he used to shoot at a time that keepers could never read. They didn't. Like the Chelsea game and Arsenal games, it's a different thing, and so I haven't seen that unplayable Harry for a little while, and it also doesn't help, which is another bugbear with me, is the way that we play our possession football from the back. It goes across, it goes up, it goes across, comes back, and it goes like that. The strikers are just sitting there, they're trying to time their runs to accept the ball, but they're not getting the ball. There's no one that can give that ball, and so they're waiting for something to happen. It seems like the longer we play that possession football and get these 70-80% stats, it lulls us into a place where we're quite happy to be, like a comfort zone, and we haven't got the mental wherewithal to suddenly break out of it and say, right, let's go for the goal now, and go bang, 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 like the good teams do.
Okay, so enough of all that negativity. It's all about positivity, because Heung-min Son won the Asian Games with South Korea. Amazing achievement, and obviously that means that now he's exempt from military service and he can come back to Tottenham and join in all the fun that we're having out here, because we were worried a little bit. I mean, if they hadn't have won the games, then it might have been a bit iffy for him. He might have had to perform, did they say perform military service?
Go through the acting of being a soldier.
Basically, we would have lost him for 2 years,
Yeah.
potentially. So it's
gone.
amazing that he is able to return. They won 2-1 in extra time against Japan. And yeah, we're really, really proud of you, Sonny. Thank you very much for those achievements. Come back home, and we need you. We need some goals, so come on back. Cool. There were a few other topics to talk about as well this week. We had the change of dates for the Man City game. Is now moved to the Monday, the 29th of October.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then we also have the Carabao Cup match, which is now been away. Was meant to be at home to Watford. Has been requested to go to Milton Keynes MK Dons Stadium. Have you ever been to the MK Dons Stadium?
I have. I've been.
What are your
been
thoughts
once.
on playing a home match there?
I think it's a perfect ground for us. It's almost like the original White Hart Lane. Steep sides, 35,000 in there. Good age, good times. Good times.
Okay.
I'm happy with that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
We also had the Champions League draw this week. It was a belter, to be honest. It was a belter. We were all sat there really, really excited to see who we were going to get. We were in pot 2, which was a good pot to get. We were obviously all going to get one big team, and we got Barcelona, which is, for me, incredible. I think it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see how the team does against the quality of Barcelona. And obviously, we're going to have an amazing away day. So we're going to be filming a podcast from Barcelona that week, because we've all booked tickets, we've got Airbnbs, it's all done, we're good to go. So that's going to be fun, even though it's going to be in the middle of December. So not sure how nice the weather's going to be, but we are going to make it happen. So incredible draw. Then we got PSV, which is, they were obviously the weaker team in the group. Frustratingly though, they were only in pot 3. And then pot 4, I think we had the worst team, the best team in the group, as in the worst team for us in terms of Inter Milan. I mean, the only other team really that was reasonably good was maybe Galatasaray in that group. I mean, Inter Milan were, I think, quite a class team. They spent well this summer, and you know, in terms of difficult matches, it's not the easiest.
It's not the easiest.
But then everyone's got to face them. So,
yes,
you know, that's the same. In a way, that might work in our favour, because then when Barcelona have to go to the San Siro, Inter Milan are going to be more up for it, and they're going to try and take a point off them. So, you know, who knows? I mean, last season we were in the group of death supposedly with Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid, and
what happened?
We smashed it. So
absolutely smashed it.
Who knows what's going to happen, but great draw. I think all Spurs fans are really excited, and hopefully you guys have got your tickets. And if you're around, if you want to get involved in any of the podcasts that we're going to be filming out there, then please do let us know. You know all of our social media handles, because they're out there, but it'd be great to hear from you. So more news this week. Firstly was that the transfer window closed in Europe. So that meant that we had Toby Alderweireld still staying, we had Vincent Janssen still staying, we had George, Kevin and Kudia still staying, and we had Moussa Sissoko still staying. Over to Mike for his thoughts on the fact that all players are still staying, and Moussa Dembele, I might add.
Well, on the whole, I'm pleased, because I feel that we missed Toby last year with whatever went on behind the scenes. We've no idea, we might never know. But I think his influence on that back, especially with the European campaign that we had and how heavy it was, I think he would have been that extra 10% that we were missing there. When you get to those stages, like at Juve and stuff, it's very, very, very fine lines that are the difference between going through and being successful and going out. And it was 2.5 minutes of just not being there, just not being effective. We thought we'd done it. We thought we were there and then. And so that's what happened. That was the lesson that we have to learn from, that you can't switch off for a single second from the very first whistle to the very last whistle under any circumstances. And if you don't learn from it, that trapdoor will always be there and you'll suffer. But those performances against Real Madrid will live long, especially the...
So in answer to my first question, you're pleased that Sissoko
Yes.
stayed, basically?
No,
That's what
absolutely
you say.
not. That was my next thing.
Unbelievable. Controversial.
Even though I've been positive so far, there are negatives in there, like there are in all football teams, and Mr. Sissoko is one of my bugbears, I'm afraid. And I have to admit that so is Mr. Lamela.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know this before I invited you on the show.
There you go. See, I can always go.
Wow.
I go home. It's not too
we're
late.
not going to analyse the Lamela today.
No,
because
we're not
he's
going to.
done anything wrong.
That's
and
why I haven't said anything.
Dean's
I'm just
not on the
saying.
line to back you up.
I'm
so
still
we're
to
not
be.
gonna do that.
I'm still to be convinced by both of those. Yeah.
Okay. Let's touch on it briefly because you mentioned it now. So
Okay.
Sissoko, obviously, we're all still waiting to be sort of like convinced by him. I think the reason why Potter's kept him in the team is because he does serve a purpose in certain types of games to provide a certain role. For me, I don't like him in the team in terms of I don't think he's good enough for our squad. I've said that many times on our Facebook group before. He shouldn't be in the squad. I don't think he's good enough. That's just Sonny's opinion. But, however, when he plays, I will support him
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. I can't
all the
argue
time.
with that.
And if he doesn't perform, then I'm not going to go crazy criticising him because I don't think he's got the skills in the first place. And I think people sometimes can sort of like use him as a scapegoat, which I really don't like in terms of, you know, if we have a poor game, for example, and he's played and maybe he's come on and he hasn't even played a bad game, but because it's Sissoko, then they pass the blame onto him,
That's human
which is
nature.
not on.
Yeah.
And it's that, you know, unfortunately that seems to be the way it is. But
It's human nature.
He's not good enough. He's not good enough, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately. Lamela is a real. I mean, he's a really interesting player to analyse, I think. And I think I think he's a good player. I think he's 100% worth having in the squad. I think his energy is infectious. I think his pace is very, very influential, and he actually is very effective with the ball at his feet. He spots a pass, he's direct, he can put those little through balls in that most other players don't necessarily see. And he has actually got a very good shot, but he just doesn't shoot enough, which I think can be said for like pretty much all of our team. So that's obviously a coaching issue. But for me, 100% should stay in the team. He's a good attacking option. And, you know, if he'd have been on the bench the other day, I mean, look at our bench. We had Rose, not an attacking option, really, but maybe obviously coming off of Davies, and it was. Llorente, you know, Winks. You know, those players, you know, Llorente's not going to change a game unless you go long ball. And Winks obviously might change a game slightly if you change him from Dembele, but it's not the same. So.
No, it's not, and that's why I didn't see. Again, that was the other thing. Not only just the defence, but I looked again at the bench, and I think when Son is there, then it's a viable chance that he's going to change a game, and he's done it, and he's proved that he can do it. But when he's not there, I look at the bench and I think, who's going to change the game?
Yeah.
And I know Winks has got the ability to get things moving quicker from centre to forward, so that the potential of a good through ball or something like that could work. But I knew against someone like Watford, if you're behind, for us to be strong enough mentally and physically and ability-wise, I didn't see there's any way back from there.
I thought the bench looked weak.
Yeah.
I thought we looked like we had a weak bench. And then obviously people are then going to question whether we should have signed people in the summer.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
which is a valid question.
It is a valid question, and I think we should have signed someone in the summer. I think we should have signed an attacking option in the summer. And then people were questioning whether Zaha would have been a good buy at 70 million. Yes, he would have been a good buy at 70 million because he would have been on that bench maybe.
Yes.
You know, and then that is an attacking option who would have maybe come on and saved the game for us, and you know, and would have given us the points. And that's the key. You know, the problem is that when you have Kane up front and then people talk about an attacking option coming in, then they're saying that basically he has to replace him, but he doesn't. You need a squad player. We need a better squad. It's not the same like, you know, Man City, Man United and Chelsea. They don't just buy replacements. They buy good, high-quality squad players, but they spend crazy money on them. But we're in that position now. Well, we're a Champions League team where we have to spend money, and we should have spent a decent amount of money on a player that might not have necessarily started in the squad, in the first team, but could have been the difference. That's the key.
It has to be. We're still behaving like we're a mid-table team. It's like.
But is that financial constraints? Where's that come from?
Well, it might be coming from the stadium or whatever. But we was promised by Levy himself that it was the money for the team is not threatened by the money for the stadium, and going through and not buying or not improving the squad.
He also told us the stadium was going to be ready.
Well, there you go. So
we know that's not happened.
Well, so we have to be practical about what's going on behind the scenes. But I still think that we haven't moved mentally. Like not talking about Poch because he's moving them in the right place. I'm talking about behind the scenes with Levy and the boys back there. I don't think they're at the right place where we should be.
They definitely don't seem to be backing them as much as they should be.
No,
and I agree
don't.
with that. And there's reasons behind that, and we don't know what they are.
But that's it. All we can do is we can see that if it is happening, then we can see it. If it's not happening, we can see it. So Chelsea have got these stars that come off and save them when they're struggling against the hard teams, and that's it. Quality does. So we haven't got that, apart from Son is the only one that comes on.
Yeah, I think obviously our bench is going to look different when Son and Lamela are back. And Kudu maybe even is still hanging around.
Yeah, because he had a good
weird,
close season.
You know, Twitter. He's very big on social media, not big on the pitch, unfortunately. So yeah, it's frustrating. I agree, but unfortunately, it is what it is. So the last bit of news we had was basically the fact that the Champions League games now are going to be played at Wembley. There was talk of them maybe being at the potential new stadium that is literally just up the road here, because we are filmed in the Blue Coats pub on Tottenham High Road, formerly the Pride of Tottenham. It's a lovely pub if you've not been here, and does fantastic burgers. But they were actually bought on the premise. They were actually bought on the premise of getting a bit of extra cash in on a match day, and so far they're sitting here on a Saturday, and they're like, there's 6 people in it, and they're not selling any bit. So it's time for our Player of the Week, where we talk about an ex-player and how we think they maybe will have fit into today's modern era and also in today's team. So today we're talking about Rafael Van der Vaart. Rafael Van der Vaart.
Yes.
Quality player. Just going to talk about his stats for a second. Bear with me. So he played 57 league games, scoring 24 goals. He scored 1 goal in the FA Cup from 5 appearances, and he scored 3 goals from 8 appearances in other competitions. So he was pretty good. What were your thoughts on Van der Vaart?
Big fan. Big fan. I thought it was a strange time for him to leave and to come to us like middle of the season. So I'm thinking, what's happened to make a quality player like that move? So
well, he came in the summer transfer window.
Yeah, I just didn't see him moving.
Yeah,
he was doing
Deadline
really
day.
well. Yeah, And so it was a surprise, but it turned out to be a good surprise. As with all new signings, we have to wait and see what we see ahead of us. You know, what can they bring to our table? And it wasn't long before he showed how much quality that guy had in that left foot.
He was a classic Harry Redknapp transfer
Yeah.
deadline buy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
8 million. Apparently, there was a deal agreed with Real Madrid that he was going to be going for more than double that, which flopped. And so we managed to take advantage, and in the end, we got the deal over the line. Your reflections, your memories of him as a player. Did you see him play yourself? And
yes, I did. I see maybe a dozen times, I would imagine. I still had the season ticket, but then I'd started doing long hours, and I had to miss some of the games. But he was definitely a plus for me. I would go out on a limb to make sure I'd go to see him, because I do like quality players. We've had more than our fair share over the years, and he was definitely one of them. He was almost along the Solskjaer sort of quality, where he gets the chance and it's bang, and it doesn't mess about and think, shall I or shan't I? Touch, bang. All the best players are like that.
Do you have a particular memory of him?
As with all my best memories, are all against Arsenal.
Quality.
Yeah, so it has to be said that anything negative for Arsenal is good for me. And so his goal against Arsenal, and
which one? Because he scored more than one.
Well, I think the penalty. At the
Emirates.
Absolutely.
3-2 victory.
Absolutely. And I still couldn't believe the winning header.
Kabul, yeah.
Kabul stepping up and doing it. So if Carlsberg did good games, that was definitely one of them. And I was just always a big fan. And I still wasn't happy about the way that he left as well.
So if he was still around today, obviously I think he might be still even playing in Germany. So how much do you think, if he was available, sort of mid-20s at his peak? Firstly, how much do you think he would have to be bought for? What do you think his worth would be in this market, this crazy market, where Sissoko is costing 30 million?
Yeah.
And then also, where do you think he would fit into our current squad and team?
Well, I think he'd keep Son out of the team because he does come off either wing, and he swaps feet very easy.
He didn't have the pace though. He never had the pace. Son has the pace.
But
it would be a good battle, I think.
Yeah, it would be a good battle. But I think that the final shot, or the amount of goals, I think he would outscore Son.
Controversial.
Yeah, I think he would outscore Son.
I think that would be a very, very good.
It'd be a good contest
to have in the squad. And then money wise, how much do you think he'd go for?
Money wise, he'd be in the sort of 45-50 million, I reckon.
Yeah.
Not quite at the top, not down in the bargain basement or anything like that, because he's got quality. That's it, and that's what everyone looks for.
He would have been good to have on the bench on Sunday.
Yes, he would have made a difference. He would have made a difference. He would have worried the opposition enough to do something different. They would on the last game against Watford, I didn't see anyone being worried about our substitution.
No, well, you wouldn't do, because one of them is a donkey.
That's it.
Sorry.
And sometimes he makes donkey noises.
I'm sorry.
Along with a couple of others that we won't mention.
So it's our time of the show where we speak to a fan of our opposing team this week. Well, in fact, this week we actually don't have any games because we have an international week, but then the week after we host the mighty Liverpool at Wembley. We all thought it was going to be the game, our first game at the new stadium. We're all looking forward to it, and unfortunately it's going to be at Wembley, which is fine because last season we had a bit of a tasty victory against them. This season they are a bit of a different outfit. They've obviously spent a lot of money. They bought themselves who looked like a good keeper, until he decided to a little bit too cocky against Leicester. But they still bought very, very well. They're looking like they're going to be challenging City for the league this season. So we've got TJ on the line. Welcome, TJ.
Hi. Thanks for having me on, man.
No, a pleasure. Good to hear from you. So, firstly, just what are your sort of thoughts on the Liverpool team at the moment? How do you think you guys are doing? Because we're quite envious of your transfer window, if nothing else, the fact that you actually spent some money, which is something that obviously we didn't do. But you actually spent it quite well in areas of the squad which needed to be spent on. So obviously, now you've got Fabinho midfield who's not even starting. You've obviously got Alisson, who is looking quite strong. You've got Keita in midfield. You spent well. Your squad is looking good. You must be quite a happy man at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a thing with Liverpool because there have been many full storms with us. I mean, I first started supporting Liverpool in my early teens in the 90s, and that was obviously the last time we actually won the league. So yeah, it's looking a lot better than it has since I can remember in terms of the full squad. Like you say, we've bought well, but then with that comes that added pressure of, okay, you spent a lot of money, so now you actually have to go and do something with it. So, there's optimism, but for me, it's tempered optimism, I think.
Okay. And have you been pleased with the start you've made?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't think we're playing anywhere near as well as we can play. We've got, Mane scoring goals at the moment. Salah's not quite hit his stride yet, but he still popped a goal in here and there. And Firmino as well, he managed to get one at the weekend, so that was good. But we're still not playing at full throttle the way we were towards the end of, not towards the end, around about the middle of last season. So I think there's a lot more to come from us. I think, Alisson's mistake at the weekend, hopefully that won't stick with him. He seems like a keeper that's got a lot of confidence, so I think he'll be fine. And the manager's obviously got faith in him. The fact we're not even playing Fabinho yet is interesting. I mean, it's just good to have that kind of depth in the squad where you can look at the bench and go, do you know what? We've got players that can come on and make a real difference.
And your thoughts on the mighty Spurs? Obviously, you're facing them next. Your first big test, I hope you would like to refer to it as. So, what are your thoughts on the sort of the recent Spurs and the team that you're coming up against next weekend?
Yeah, I mean, Spurs are an interesting one because obviously, I mean, I'm sure for some of the fans it's a bit frustrating that you haven't spent any money, but on the flip side, you've got a squad that is settled. You've had a good start to the season as well. All your players, as far as I know, are healthy and in pretty decent form. So, like you say, first big test for us. If we can, I don't see any reason why we can't win that game. I mean, obviously I'm biased, so I think, we should be able to beat you guys. But I think, I think for both teams, it's going to be a good test of both of us to see who comes through and who can actually, get a few extra points over the other ones.
Yeah, I think we obviously benefited last season from Lovren playing, who had a bit of a mare. It's looking like it's not going to be playing this season, obviously, because Gomez seems to have started very well. You've obviously got Van Dijk as well, so your team is definitely looking stronger back there. And so maybe we won't have the same spaces that we did last season, and obviously the same mistakes that did lead to the goal. So in terms of a prediction, where do you see the game going, and what do you think the final score might be?
I think we will win 2-1. I think it'll be a tight game. I think, like you say, I'm glad you mentioned about the defence. I think that's obviously the biggest thing for us. It's for ages I've been hoping that he'll play Gomez and Van Dijk as a central defensive pairing, because I think that's going to be like our two main guys going forward. So yeah, we're looking a lot more solid. So like you said, it won't be as much space. I think Kane might struggle to get on the ball as much as he normally would get a chance to. So I think, Ali will probably pop up and pop one in at some point. But yeah, I think 2-1.
Okay, all right, Mike, predictions. What are you thinking? Tough game.
Predictions. If I'm being honest, I'm trying to forget about our last result, because I think we were bullied out of that game and we didn't step up. We were very soft in front of a team that were really motivated and physical. But I don't see that happening against Liverpool. I think Liverpool will be more of an open game because of their attacking prowess. So there's automatically there's going to be more space on both sides. So I think it's going to be the quality of the finishers that are going to come to the fore because of the space of the bigger pitch. So I'm going to hazard a positive 2-1 the other way, to a 2-1 for Spurs, purely because I think that Mora has something about him. He's shown that he's a quality finisher with his 2 goals against Man U and under pressure against good opposition. So nothing phases him. So I'm thinking that he's going to turn up more than Harry's going to turn up. So I'm thinking 2-1 to us. Hopefully,
I'm gonna go in the middle. I actually think it's going to be 2-2. I think, obviously, which was the same score last season at Anfield. I think definitely going to be a high-scoring game. I'd be very, very surprised if it finished 1-0 or 0-0. And I think both teams, on their day, can score a lot of goals. And I think it's gonna be a really good game. I'm looking forward to it. A little bit disappointed it's an early kickoff, because I do prefer the later kickoffs. I think the teams normally get into them a little bit more, and the atmosphere is normally a bit better because the teams like ourselves have a few more hours to get a few pints inside us. But I think it's going to be a good day out, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So cool, good stuff. Well, thanks for coming on, TJ. Much appreciated, buddy.
Cool,
and,
no problem, man.
I'm sure we'll catch up with you later on in the season, and best of luck with everything.
Cool, man. Same to you.
Thanks, man.
Guys, take care.
good to see you again, TJ. Take care.
Cool, man.
Don't run over anyone on that bike, yeah?
I can't promise that.
Okay. Good to see you, though. Good to see you, mate.
Okay, so we've just heard from TJ there, his prediction for the Liverpool match. So he's gone for 2-1 Liverpool, Mike's gone for 2-1 Spurs, and I've met in the middle with 2-2. So let's discuss the formation and selection they might use for this game. So obviously, they're coming up against pace, they're coming up against a 3-pronged attack. Does that mean you go with 3 at the back, as we did against Watford unsuccessfully, or does it mean that you go for 4 at the back, meaning that you have Dyer and Dembele in front of the defence? What do you do, Mike Pochettino?
Mike Pochettino, a definite compliment right there. I would say that I think our biggest thing is concentration, because we let them score at Liverpool, those last couple of goals where Salah got that little goal there where we just switched off. And I think it's not so much who's playing where as opposed to keeping focus for that whole game.
Well, that goal was actually from a dire mistake when they did play a back 4. So, I mean, obviously mistakes can happen in any game. But what would you go for, back 3 or back 4?
I would go for a back 3.
Okay, and would you keep Sanchez in then?
I wouldn't keep Sanchez in. I think that Toby...
No, but we're going for a back 3, so there would be space for Sanchez.
So Sanchez looked a bit... He didn't look up to speed. I don't know whether that's because he was missed for the game, but 3, it would have to be Sanchez with it, and he has got a fair amount of pace to get himself out of trouble. But I wasn't convinced by him. But I do think it should be 3 at the back. But that would put a lot of responsibility of the 2 wide guys.
As we've discussed before,
yeah, because they will have to do with the pace that they break with. So if they're going too high, too quick, that's where the gaps are going to be.
Sure.
And that's where they do their most damage, Liverpool.
They're going to have to do a lot of work,
Yeah, so you're going to do a lot of work. So if I can trust those wide players, yes. Otherwise, it would have to be a straight 4 at the back.
I think I would go 4 at the back.
Yeah.
I think I would go 4 at the back because I think actually it is more defensive in terms of you do have more players back, and that centre midfield covering I think is key. And I think Dembele, if you have 3 at the back and then you just have Dembele in there, it's not enough. It's not enough to cover their midfield attacks.
Right. You're right.
So and then also if you have Salah, Mane and Firmino at the back, then you've literally got like 3 on 3 pretty much. You've got man for man, and so it's not.
Yeah, it's not
going to be enough. I don't think. We'll see what Poch does. We'll see what Poch does. So anyway, fingers crossed. It's going to be good to go back to Wembley for me because I've not been there this season, and it would be nice to have a little drink up with the DSI buddies. So thanks for listening and watching, everybody. Once again, it's been great to have you on board. We are growing on Instagram. We have over 1,000 followers, which is really exciting. So if you do want to follow us, then please do so. Our handle is TTILM Show, TTILM Show. We also have our Twitter handle, which is the same. We have Facebook and we have our YouTube channel. So thanks for watching and listening, and thank you to Mike for taking part.
Thank you for inviting me along.
See you again soon, hopefully. And fingers crossed we can have a good result next week against Liverpool. And we will be missing you next week, but we'll be back with you after the Liverpool game. So we'll look forward to seeing you then.